Hello and welcome to Thumbprint Studios Weekly Tea with Sara Kay Godot. I am April Sigman-Marx.
And I am Jaina Alexander.
And tonight we're going to be talking with Sara about how to survive and thrive as an artist in these virtual times, aka how to put out the dumpster fire. Sara, who is one of my favorite people in the world, is a stand-up comic, an actor, a writer, director based out of Long Beach, California. She currently produces and hosts a monthly live streamed comedy show called Think Tank. She is also featured on the Bad Reading and Heat and Constant Knowledge podcast as an improv comic. And she is currently still working as an actress during COVID times right now. Like, let's give her a hand for being able to navigate the craziness.
Hello, Sara.
Hello, April and Jaina. So great to see you guys.
Good to see you too. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say off the bat, one of the greatest parts about, virtual life during times is the fact that the three of us can hang out in 3 different time zones right now.
How cool is that?
Right?
Yeah. One of the good things. So we ask everyone this to start. What is your current obsession?
So my current obsession is The Masked Singer. I don't know if you guys have watched that show.
No.
It's the absurdity that the world needs right now. So it's in the 4th season, I think. But it's where celebrities of all kinds, like famous singers, actors, politicians, social media people, come out in like really elaborate like mascot costumes and compete in a singing contest. And the panel has to guess who the people are as the competition goes on, and one person gets voted off every time. I came to the game a little bit late. One of my best friends was obsessed with it, and she dragged me in, and then right before the lockdown happened, we actually got to be audience members. So I have like a little bit more skin in the game than most people. So like I super, super love it now. But this whole past season, it's the people are filming in the studio, but there's no audience because it's not safe. So they've been just like virtually plugging in old audience members. So not only am I obsessed with the show and it just brings joy that I think people need right now, but I'm also like sneaky trying to find myself for like a second appearance all of the time.
Amazing.
Yes.
Oh, you should make that like some sort of game of like
Right.
Every time you see Sara, you got to do something.
Drink.
Well, yes.
Yes. Yeah. I have seen it, portions of it a couple of times. And you're so right. It is completely and utterly absurd. It's like celebrities in furry costumes trying to like sing.
Right.
It's so hilarious.
It's astounding. And like the backup dancers are amazing. And like there are some people that you would never guess would be as good as they are doing what they do. Like I knew that we were heading into the apocalypse last season when Sarah Palin sang Baby Got Back.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's telling.
That happened. And for me, that trumps Carol Baskin being on Dancing with the Stars.
I mean, both of those kind of, telling.
Two of the 4 horsemen.
Right?
Yes. So tell us about your journey that's brought you to where you are.
So I will jam almost 40 years of life into about 3 minutes for you. But I grew up in theater from when I was 3. There was actually between the ages of 3 and 25, never longer than a 2-month period that I wasn't involved in some sort of production. I actually met April in undergrad. We both went to New World School of the Arts in Miami. And then directly after New World, I ran out of Florida as fast as humanly possible to Chicago. Ironically, the first, I'd say 23 years, I was really fighting the fact that I was born to be a comedian Like I was taking myself very, very seriously and failing at every turn, which I think is what makes a good comedian to begin with. But when I got to Chicago, I actually auditioned for the directing program at DePaul. And that was going to be why I was moving to Chicago. And they're like, we love you, but we can't pay for you. And I was like, I love you, but I can't pay for you either. So there was a financial issue. And they're like, you should just move to Chicago and do storefront theater. That's as good as going to grad school. And I was like, great. And so that's what I did. So I moved to Chicago. The first theater company I auditioned for was the Conservatory in Lincoln Square. The first show I got in was The Bad Seed the Musical, where we took the original black and white drama and turned it into a cross-gendered camp musical comedy. And that ran for 2 years, and then I got sucked into that theater company. So I was a company member and the scenic designer, and I stayed there for all of my Chicago time. And then 8 years ago, I came out to California and really kind of leaned into the stand-up side of things. And did stand up off and on while also having to be a sommelier and beverage director because comedy and live theater did not pay me what it needed to. And finally, in the last 3 years, I've been able to find financial stability elsewhere so I can lean completely back into my creative life. And then ironically, a global pandemic hit. So we are... We are to the point where I'm learning to be super flexible, but fortunately, I thrive when there's no rules, and I don't think there are any right now. So you can create exactly what you want your world to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thriving when there's no rules.
So what
the
are some
artistic spirit?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
You're fine. So what are some of the biggest surprises that you've had during your no rules pandemic?
Well, I think because California has been completely in lockdown, like hardcore, way more than a lot of other states since March. And I think all of us wallowed for at least a month. Like nobody was doing anything because I mean, everybody in the country is grieving right now, whether they realize it or not, because just normal ways of life are shut down. So there's definitely a part of me that's like, oh, like, I guess I've heard of this Zoom thing. And I hate technology, by the way. So like even having to like learn new technology was very anxiety provoking for me. But then I was like, I don't want to do sneaky underground live things because I don't think that's smart or responsible. And I'm too old to be taking risks like that. But I also don't just want to be in my office by myself for whoever knows how long. So like a few of my friends started just having like Zoom game nights or whatever. And I got a little used to it. And then I'm like, all right, well, I'll do a comedy show. What's the worst that can happen? And I assumed it was going to be just me like talking to a wall. And it's different. Like you don't have an audience laughing and interacting the same way a live comedy show is. But there's a lot more connection between the performers. So ironically, I think I've been building better community being stuck at home in my office than I have in live situations for the last 20 years.
I think that's a common thread for a lot of like artists in general is finding that like now that we have the time to network, we're actually doing it and collaborating with people that we've wanted to for a really long time. So how has your process, or has it, I guess, your process as a performer changed at all during quarantine times? I mean, I know you said that you hate technology. So has that changed how you are writing or not?
Yes and no. Like fortunately in undergrad, we had to do a one-person show. So I do know the insanity of rehearsing my own work by myself to myself and just assuming it's going to be okay. So that's kind of how I like normally in the pre-times rehearsing for a big comedy show, I'd hit a whole bunch of open mics and test out material and see how it goes. And now it's just me recording myself in my room and being like, all right, that slapped. I'm pretty proud of that. But it's been working out. I've been getting pretty good response. Probably the major pivot in my process is because I'm hosting a show and because I actually have a lot of the same people watching every show every month now. Normally, I would roll out a set like every 6 months and perform it with, tweaks here and there, but like the same set of jokes to like 100 rooms in a month. And nobody knows because it's all different people. Where now I feel like I have the pressure to come up with like brand new 10-minute sets every month that are also topical because news has not been boring this year.
No, it has not.
No, it is not. So in working through that process of having this like rehearsal by yourself, I feel like it lands. I hope it lands with the audience, and then constantly creating new material. Have you found that comedic timing in this virtual space is vastly different?
Yes and no. I mean, to be honest, when people think of stand-up comedy, I think they always think of what's shown on TV, which is like packed clubs where everybody's laughing. And the reality of comedy shows is 90% of them are completely empty rooms with a bunch of comics that don't want to listen to you at all because they're all in their own head, or they're like trying to hit on somebody in the hallway, or they're sneaking out to smoke cigarettes because they're nervous. So that's like one aspect. Or the other aspect is you're performing at a bar show where the people that are at the bar had no idea that a comedy show was going to be happening. And comedy is very polarizing. So if you didn't come to see comedy and comedy like lands on your Rams game, opinions can be had that the comic doesn't want to be dealing with. So in some ways, like Zoom show, and all of them are run a little bit differently, but at least my show, like I make sure all the comics are at least there with their cameras on, even though their sound's off. But like you can see them reacting, and it's almost more genuine reaction than you would get at a live show ever. So in some ways, I think it's been working out better.
Wow. Are there any like takeaways that you think that you'll incorporate into your live show once we can all be in the world again in a million years?
I mean, I think anybody that thinks the world's going to go back to completely normal as soon as there's a vaccine are kidding themselves. And I think that there are a lot of benefits to how we've learned to collaborate artistically. And so I can definitely see, like, I definitely miss performing live and I want to get back to it, but I can see wanting to do more like Zoom open mics and development stuff before rolling it out, instead of having to drive, 2 hours into Hollywood to do 5 minutes and wait around for 6 hours again. And also have to buy like shitty Chardonnay.
Chardonnay.
Nope. And that came out enough of a simoleon.
Chardonnay, but they're not all great.
Oh, that's so much.
True.
Yes.
So when someone at home, like say someone's like, I've not worked virtually in comedy or in stand-up, and they're feeling a bit nervous about it, or they're unsure what to do, what are some of the things that they can avoid, or some of the things that you've discovered of like, nope, don't do this one?
Well, I've actually had to, because I like to say I've been a lot of people's firsts this year, because like I got talked into it, and then I've been talking a lot of other comics into doing it, and I have been intentional in how I book, to where I have a lot of different generations represented and a lot of different identities represented, and just making it a really balanced community. But that being said, it means that I at least have one person over the age of 50 in every lineup. So them being scared of the technology is like double my fear. And I usually end up having to like do an actual phone call, which I'm even young enough to hate talking on the phone. But I'll call them and I'll just be like, hey, if you've ever done Zoom at all before, you're going to be fine. The only thing that you shouldn't do is think of this as a bitch session because you're not on stage. Like, think of it as the fact that you actually have the opportunity to do a comedy set in front of like 500 plus people. So even though you don't hear them laughing, they're watching. And when's the last time you booked a room of 500? it's been a while, right? And they're like, oh, okay. And then they're like, that a lot of them also get nervous if they're allowed to cuss or not. And then I'm like, have you ever heard my set? You'll be fine.
So
it's
no,
just
go ahead.
taking risks. And then I think also being comfortable with how new and imperfect this is. So there's always going to be glitches in every show and timing issues. And that's, I think, almost what makes it more endearing, because we like literally are all on the same playing field right now, you know?
Yeah, this new virtual realm has been a great equalizer in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways. Hmm. So once it's done, once we do eventually go back to in person, are you going to continue hosting? So you talked about using it as a development tool, but would you continue hosting Think Tank?
Oh, 100%. So my intention with Think Tank, even in the before times, was to do this as a live show in Long Beach. Unfortunately, the bar that I was in talks with no longer exists. But I know that's the sad reality of what's going on. But it is my hope that once everything opens, there's enough following behind Think Tank that it would be very easy for me to pitch it to literally any venue I want. They'd be like, this is a no-brainer. It already has the draw, so it will benefit my business, versus like, I don't want a bunch of comedians here scaring away my patron.
What about with your work as an actor? Because you're still auditioning, you're still working. Do you have anything that you have found during these crazy times that is like, definitely do this and like definitely don't do this thing?
Yes. So I feel like I've seen on both sides of the coin people working from home. So like doing self-tapes, or if you do voiceovers, doing like voiceover recording from home. There's even at the beginning of the pandemic, not only were you doing self-tapes to get hired to go on set, but you were actually like, your house was being auditioned. Because if you picked, they would literally just drop film equipment at your front door and you would film your own thing. So it was all, and I think all of that was very daunting for everybody involved. But there's a lot of people that I've seen in like audition workshops that I've done, and other just keeping up in the industry things, where it's like simple things like not thinking to do face lighting or not putting a clean background behind you. And it's like, well, whatever, we're all at home in sweatpants. But it's like, yeah, but this is still a professional audition. So you got to treat it like a professional audition. So you got to bring it the same way you would bring it in the room, maybe even more, but also don't go crazy. So like the flip side is if you have 24 hours to get an audition in, there's some people that'll do 1 or 2 shots, call it a day, send it in and be done. And then there's other people that would literally do 300 and drive themselves nuts and obsess over it and try and make it perfect. And that's mentally unhealthy, and it's also probably not going to help you book the job. So treat it the same way you would treat it being in a room. Like be kind to yourself, but also present yourself well.
Yeah. Be professional.
Yeah.
And be kind.
Yes. And I
think
think
we should use all the time.
Yes.
Probably.
I think people forget a lot of times in auditions that 15% of it's really the scripted material. The rest is a job interview. So like you need to make sure that you're presenting like a professional person who's also going to be somebody that you would want to spend multiple hours sitting around doing nothing with, you know? Because that's the reality of set life.
Don't be an asshole.
Yes. Yes. Don't be an asshole. Don't be shy. Let yourself wear well. Don't wear sweatpants unless it's in the breakdown. Or nobody can see your pants.
Of course. I mean, you could look like you're wearing a ball gown from, what is it, like here up, and like,
right?
Great. Yeah.
But again, that's knowing your framing.
So what are some thoughts that you want to leave everyone with today?
I mean, I guess it's try and find opportunities in the chaos right now. Like for me, there was definitely different parts in my artistic life that I'm happy to share that weren't positive. Like I didn't come from money, and graduating with an undergrad in theater and getting out into the real world and being like, oh wow, there is a legitimate, especially in the early 2000s, a legitimate financial barrier to entry to do this for real. Like to get all of the headshots you need on a regular basis and do the reels that you need. And it was much more expensive then than it is now. And do all the classes that you need to do to keep up with the Joneses and do all that. And then still maybe find something that can pay your rent, because all of that investment is just the preparedness, you know? And it's not like those pieces don't still exist, but it's a lot looser right now. And there are a lot more opportunities for affordable training to where you can really like beef up. Like I took like 3 mind-blowing screenwriting classes during the pandemic, and I'm now part of writers groups that like are legit attached to really big writers rooms that I hope to be in one day. And that's opportunities that wouldn't have been so easily accessible before. Or the fact that, like, even with you guys, I took a movement class with a great movement guy in New York from my office in Long Beach. So there's all kinds of things that really weren't possible before that are right now. And I don't know for how long they will be, but seize those opportunities.
Yes. I think that this virtual thing, although like I'm excited to be in person and to like hug people and to be in space, I don't think this is going away totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
To stay. So Sara, can you tell us a little bit more about your think tank?
Yes. So it is a monthly comedy show. This month it will be December 17th, so this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. It's a Zoom show that gets live streamed to Facebook, so very similar format to this. If you can't make it at 7 p.m., it lives on my Facebook in perpetuity, so feel free to follow me on Facebook, Sara Kay Godot. It happens every month. This month I'm particularly excited about the lineup because it's almost all female comics. Ooh, so Merry Christmas! Happy holidays!
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Right?
Excellent present.
And I promise we're funny.
I felt like that went without saying.
Well, there's just the old trope that I would like to drown in a toilet that women aren't funny. So
ridiculous.
In a toilet, yes. Yeah. That's exactly the place where it belongs. Right? Yeah. So excellent. So the Thursday, December 17th, 7 p.m. Pacific, yep. Which would be then what? 10 p.m. Eastern. Yes?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So if you're on my parent page, you can watch it in the morning on Friday, or stay up, have some drinks, and enjoy comedy.
Awesome.
A nice way to kick off the long weekend.
Right?
If that's your weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we actually just put up our winter session classes. Those start January 18th. Myself and Chuck Obasi, who Sara took that movement class with. He's amazing. We'll be teaching a musical theater workshop. It's going to be awesome. We're very excited about it. And April, we'll be teaching a script analysis class that I am super excited to take myself. So that's going to be awesome. Those start January 18th. On January 11th, we have our first Thumbprint Reads and Listens for 2021. For 2021, we are doing a series called Instead Of. So instead of Hedda Gabler by Henrik Ibsen, we're going to be discussing Summer in Goss and Sauce by Maria Irene Fornes. It's going to be awesome. We are bringing in the lovely dramaturg and board member of Thumbprint Studios, Anne Garcia Romero. So it's going to be fabulous. We're very excited about that. Check out our new events webpage for all of this information at www.thumbprintstudios.org/events. All of those things will be there. You can register for our classes. Registration is open, and we will have more things to announce in the coming weeks. So we're super excited about winter.
So lots of things to keep your craft oiled, to keep you thinking and to keep you laughing with Sarah's Think Tank. And next week we're going to be sitting down with Gary Grundy we're having tea on Wednesday, December 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, to talk about his songwriting club. And y'all, I went to this, Jaina and I attended for the first time today. I'm not a musician, I'm not a songwriter, and I walked away with a little ditty that I wrote and was surprised. I was like, this isn't gonna go well for me. Jaina, I have all the faith in that she's gonna write something amazing. I'm gonna struggle. So I'm so surprised, and it was definitely Gary and the way that everything was led and inspiring. So he's going to come and talk to us about what that's all about. So please come and join us. Thank you all who are out in the ethers having some tea with us this evening to kick off the weekend. And Sarah, thank you so much for being here and being our guest tonight.
Thanks, guys. This is last.
Thank you so much.
And I won't admit what's in my teacup.
A lady never tells.
Nope.
Bardonnay.
Not in this house.
All right, everyone. See you next time.
Bye, guys.